At one point while growing up, we all seem to attach to one player that we never falter from idolizing the rest of our lives. That one player captivates us, causes us to defend their character and honor, and the nostalgia we have from watching them play never seems to wane. Quite often, it's one of the very first players we tend to fixate on as kids, or once we first fall in love with the sport, with one particular player being the role model we wanted to be like, and whose values we wanted to exemplify. For me, that player was Jock Jones. Don't ask me why, it was probably because the Twins had Torrey Hunter and he was already claimed by my older brother, we both couldn't have the same favorite player, etc. Even today, Jones is one of my favorite players, even after some muddied personal problems. Getting to meet him and snap a picture at the 2014 All-Star Game Fan Fest was an event I'll never forget. I even gave a speech about him in my middle school communications class, which is kind of cringy for a player who only got one Hall of Fame vote, but hey, sometimes the passion we have for rooting on one of our favorite teams or players takes a hold of us. There's a fine line between that boundary of passionate nostalgia and coming off as cringe. One fateful day in early 2020, that line was crossed on r/MLB The Show, and the legend of Chipper Guy was born. Now, before I get into the details of this episode, I first want to preface a few things. First of all, I have no strong feelings towards this post I'm about to show you one way or the other. Reddit sometimes just takes things farther than they need to go, and that's the nature of the site. Second, the post, or the image of the post, is gone from the internet. I understand that there will be some context lacking as the episode continues, so I want to apologize for that in advance. The user, who is collectively known as Chipper Guy by the community, will be referenced as such in the video. While you could probably find their username if you searched hard enough, both the original post and the user's account are gone, as the user was apparently suspended from Reddit for unrelated causes. You can still see the timestamp in the title of the post if you search the link, but the associating image is no longer visible. I'll do my best to describe the post. It was titled, "This is the most rewarding moment I've had playing this game. One huge step closer to my all-time Brave squad." The post was made on February 20th, 2020, and was referencing that the user unlocked 99 overall Chipper Jones, which was going for 540,000 stubs at the time. The OP referenced that he went to Braves games as a child, and would cheer the loudest when Chipper was at bat. During my research for this video, I learned that OP's uncle was a Braves executive for a time, and they would go to Braves games semi-routinely. OP was hoping for a 99 overall version of Chipper, but wasn't too excited that it was released as a World Series reward. Quote, "I thought I'd never get him, but this week I decided I'd change that. I grinded the market for hours at a time, and finally made enough to make it happen. You were my childhood hero. Welcome home, number 10. The image of the post was split in halves, with an image of in-game Chipper on one side, and the ode to Chipper on the other. Admittedly, the font choice was a little suspect, and I believe it's that weird cursive font that Samsungs tend to have. Afterwards, there were numerous satirical renditions of the post that later appeared on the sub, and these are about the best images I can offer in terms of what the original post was like. I'll come back to these in a second. But once the post went live, it was shortly one of the hottest contested threads of the next week. I'll mention this was right before the launch of MLB 20, so there was some liveliness in the sub in terms of traffic, but no real news to speak of. Some users completely understood the sentiment, and commented with the players they felt a similar way about. A few clowned on the text font choice more than anything, but a large amount of the Reddit machine absolutely roasted this post. "How do I delete this?" asked noted Socratic method user 420blazeit69. Cheesy and cringe, others called it, along with some homophobic comparisons. Shortly after the Chipper post, another user posted their satirical version with Ryder Jones, a 55 overall common player in the Giants system. Their post started off the same, saying they went to Ryder's high school games. But instead of commending the player at the end, they told the player to go fuck themselves for being their childhood bully. Personally, I think these two posts could have been the end of it. Many derogatory comments were removed, and MLB 20 would have flooded the sub with new content just a few weeks later. But what really solidified Chipper Guy's legendary status in the sub was when he doubled down with his next post 6 days later, titled, "Just so y'all know." Quote, "Hey y'all, it's Chipper Guy. Just so everyone knows, I'm not bothered. People can bully if they want. I've been through real shit in life. I deal with actual stuff that bothers me every day. This ain't even on my radar. Also, while some may view my post as cringy, it's more misunderstood. The tone I was trying to convey wasn't as serious as how it came off. The fact is that I would do anything to go back to a Sunday afternoon at Old Turner Field and watching Chipper play. The show gives me a way to reminisce, and that means a lot to me. I appreciate those of you who are mature enough to understand what I meant and how I feel. But for real, don't worry about me. I'm not the sensitive type." This new post would open the floodgates, as many new users who hadn't even seen the first post were now out in droves learning about what had happened in the past week. The clowning continued as users went after Chipper Guy for something they thought was even more vain. Does anyone else feel like this is making it worse? OP, if it didn't actually bother you, you wouldn't be making this post, said user Falby23. I've never seen someone who's completely unbothered by something make a 3-paragraph post explaining how unbothered they are, said user 911. For what it's worth, the user who made the satire post would comment and apologize about how there is no ill will with their parody. It was meant to be lighthearted and funny. I think based on the upvotes, most of the sub understood that. For a while, the talk over Chipper Guy would bleed over to other threads and subreddits where the talk got really toxic. I'll pass over those for the sake of keeping things PG, but it's really amazing how one post can lead things to go south that bad. What I will say is that the series of events in February of 2020 led to Chipper Guy being one of the most notorious and well-known anecdotes in MLB The Show sub history, maybe even number 2 behind the Barry Bonds as a 97 post. Now, most people might think that was the end of Chipper Guy, especially since his account is suspended. A lot of users might think the toxicity devolved into something so severe that it led to the end of his account. However, this story does have a bit of a happy ending. Chipper Guy would post again the next year, this time in July 2021, making a bit of a lighthearted jab at himself for his first post. Cheered the loudest when the dingers came off his bat, yada yada yada, got Chipper again. Followed by PS, not making fun of Chipper Guy. I am Chipper Guy. The comments this time were surprisingly positive. Some were even asking why the old font choice was gone. But they were happy that Chipper Guy was back, and some even apologized again for the toxicity of the sub originally brought. Another similar post would appear later, and the sub would also later learn the value of sentiment and nostalgia. After this post would become one of the most upvoted in the history of the sub. Today, my 84-year-old grandfather stopped by my place. I was playing the show and decided to show him my team. Showed him Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams, Stan Musial, etc. He was blown away. These were all players he used to watch growing up. I went through my binder and he called out every player he had seen play. Even Ruth and Honus, who were before his time. Brought back memories of the stories his dad used to tell him about those players. I then went into the game and showed him Shibe Park. This was the stadium he used to go to with his dad. He pointed to me where he sat during the very last game at the stadium. I played for a little and showed him hitting with Mantle and Williams. I put Prince Hal in and had him pitch. After that, he just spent a few hours exploring all of the old grounds. He went back to Shibe and Polo Grounds and was brought close to tears exploring the places he used to visit. The rest of the day, he couldn't stop talking about how cool it was. He could not believe that we get to play as all these legends. We are so lucky to be living in a time to experience this and should never take it for granted. A lot of times we get caught up in the stats of each card, but sometimes it's nice to take a step back and realize we are all controlling Mickey Mantle or the likes. Virtually every comment on this post was about the memories users shared with their parents and grandparents, and how much baseball truly is America's pastime. Many called it the best post on the sub in a long time. It was here in the comments where Chipper Guy would explain his story one last time before his account was suspended, and we'd learned that he might have been a bit on the tipsy and emotional side at the time of the post. But the story was finally put to rest when Chipper Guy said he still has his fond memories of Chipper Jones, and more than anything, he just wanted his username popularity to die down a bit. We'd all rather there be more genuine stories of times that have passed us by. That's truly what Diamond Dynasty encompasses. We get to take players both new and old and learn about those players, while also creating new memories of our own in the game. My Minnesota Twins have been god-awful in the postseason since 2004, and I'd very much one day like to reminisce as an old man the time I saw them win a World Series. But for now, I smile anytime I hit a home run with players I watched while growing up like Joe Mauer or Justin Morneau. For you younger folk out there who have never seen one of your favorite players retire before, you might not comprehend what it's like, but you will someday. In a way, we'll all have a profound, heartfelt moment playing this game like Chipper Guy did. It's hard not to be romantic about a sport you love. Thank you for watching this episode of A History of the Show. If you enjoyed this story that came from the MLB The Show subreddit, be sure to watch my video on the granddaddy post of them all. Until next time, this is Kasabe.